asking questions is so important for conversation and meeting people. I'm Mithika from English ESL and in today's lesson I'm going to teach you question tags. Question tags can replace the simple yes-no questions in English, and they can also be used to reinforce the statement that you just made to get the listeners agree with you. By the end of the video, you will have clear idea and you will not remain confused about the question tag. And you will know how to use are they, will she, did she, isn't he, are we. So let's watch the video. What is a question tag? A question tag is a sentence with a small part at the end that makes it a yes-no question. For example, you like kittens, which is a statement, not a question. And if you add a small part at the end of it, you like kittens, don't you? Now this sentence is a question. We call it a tag question. The little part at the end after the comma is called a question tag. A tag is a word or phrase that is added to a sentence. Let's look at the formulation. So a question tags are formed with the auxiliary or modal verb from the statement and the appropriate subject. And remember, a positive statement is followed by a negative question tag. Let's take an example. She is sad, which is a statement, and this statement is a positive statement, and the auxiliary we have is. So what would be the negative question tag is isn't. And we'll convert it into question tag by picking up the subject, and we'll have a negative question tag. She's sad, isn't she? Let's take another example. Dinner is ready. Again, we have the same auxiliary is. We'll change it into the negative, isn't. And then we have the question tag. Dinner is ready, isn't it? Now, it is almost important to remember that the tag question will almost always use the contraction form. It is possible to use the non-contractive form, but that sounds too formal. So as a positive statement has a negative question tag, so a negative statement is followed by a positive question tag. So let's take an example. You can't handle it, which is a negative statement. So you will have a positive question tag by making can't into can and picking up the subject, which is you, and you will have a positive question tag. You can't handle it, can you? Let's take another example. You don't look so good, which is again a negative statement. Make it a positive question tag by changing don't into do. So now if you don't have any auxiliary verb in the sentence or the modal form in the sentence, then how are you going to frame your question tag? So if the verb in the main sentence is in the present simple, we form the question tag with do or does. Let's take an example. You work hard. So we have a positive statement and we'll have the negative question tag by using don't you. You work hard, don't you? Let's take another example. The boy loves his father, which is a positive statement, and the subject is the boy, and we'll use does to make a question tag, right? Positive statement, negative question tag, so it will be doesn't. If the verb is in the past simple, we use did only. Let's take an example. They went to cinema, so it is a positive statement. We'll use did not, and they went to cinema, didn't they? She studied in London School of Economics. Again a positive statement. Didn't she? However, we use positive question tag for a negative statement and a negative question tag for a positive statement. There are exceptions too. Some verbs and expressions have different question tags. For example, I'm intelligent, aren't I? I used aren't I because am doesn't have a negative contraction. You could also say am I not, like I'm attractive, am I not, but that is too formal to use. Let's talk about imperative. Suppose you have a positive imperative, stop daydreaming. You would use a question tag using the word will you, right? And same for the negative also. You will not use the negative question tag for the negative imperative. We'll talk about more on this later on. Suppose you are making a suggestion. Let's go to the beach. So we'll use the question tag with the word shall we. And same for the negative suggestion also. Let's not rush. Shall we have got possession? Has he got a car? Hasn't he? Will not use haven't he. The same way we use in other times in English. There is or there are. There aren't any spiders in the bedroom. Are there? This and that is. This is Paul's pen. You will not use isn't this. You will use isn't it. It's time we talk more about imperative plus question tag. Sometimes we use question tag with imperatives, but sentence remain an imperative. We use want for invitation, and we can use can, can't, will, would for orders. Right? So take a seat, which is a polite invitation, and you would end up adding a question tag that is want you. Help me. Can you? When you are becoming friendly with your friend and you would say, help me, can you? But if you get irritated, you would use can't, right? Help me, can't you? Close the door. If you want to be politer with someone, you would use would here. Close the door, would you? Do it now. Less politer way, will you? Now don't forget, will you? With the negative imperative, as told earlier, only will is possible. Sometimes a statement which uses the adverbs like barely, hardly, neither, nobody, none, nothing, seldom are treated as negative statements. Why? Because they have the negative sense. Even though they may be in the positive statement, the feeling of the statement is negative, and we treat these statements with these words a negative statement. So the question tag is normally positive. For example, this dog never barks on anyone. The word never makes it a negative statement, gives it a sense of negativity. So we'll follow it with the positive tag and we'll use it does. This dog never barks on anyone, does it? Let's take another example. She can barely walk. So barely makes it negative. So we'll use the positive tag. She can barely walk. Can she? Talk about intonation. The intonation of question tag shows the exact meaning of something. So if the intonation of a question tag goes up, it means you're not sure and you want to know the answer and you are putting up a question here. So this is your car, isn't it? And if the intonation of a question tag goes down, it means you're checking, confirming information or making conversation go on, or you're reinforcing a statement that you just made and getting the listener to agree with you. So you could say, this is your car, isn't it? You're going down. And you're confirming. Now we have come to the last part, which is same way tag questions. Although the basic structure of tag question is positive, negative, negative, positive, it is sometimes possible to use a positive, positive or negative, negative structures. And we use same way tag questions to express interest, surprise, anger, and not to make a real question. Look at these positive, positive tag questions, you'll be clear. So you're getting promotion, are you? I'm using the positive tag question because I'm feeling elated. That's wonderful. She wants to join RPS International. Does she? Some chance. Here we are talking about somebody's interest. Therefore we used a positive statement followed by a positive question tag. Let's take another example. So you think that's funny? Do you? Think again. I may be angry at the situation and therefore I'm using a positive statement with a positive tag question. Negative, negative tag question usually sound rather hostile. So you don't like my look, don't you? This is more common practice to use in British English. Americans don't use this way. And this is all about this chapter, tag questions. And I wish you would take up the video quiz which I made specially for all of you. And till then, happy studies. Bye bye.